Imagine yourself walking through the heart of Rome in the year 67 AD. The marble pillars cast long shadows across the forum. Merchants shout their prices, and senators whisper in hushed corners. And then, there, moving through the center with a majesty both captivating and chilling, is the emperor himself, Nero, ruler of the Roman Empire. At his side walks a breathtakingly adorned young woman, her body wrapped in silk, her neck heavy with jewels that glitter under the Mediterranean sun. But behind this dazzling facade, whispers ripple like waves, because every Roman who dares to look knows the horrifying truth. This woman is not who she seems. She was once a boy named Sporus, a youth now forced to play the role of Nero's bride. Nero's reign had not always been shrouded in cruelty. When he first ascended the throne at just 16, hope blossomed in the empire. He reduced taxes, sponsored public games, and even performed in plays charming the common people. For a fleeting moment, Rome believed it stood at the dawn of a golden age. But absolute power isolates, and isolation corrodes the human soul. Nero found himself surrounded not by friends or honest counsel, but by flatterers and schemers. And in this suffocating silence, suspicion and paranoia began to take root. In this story enters Octavia, Nero's first wife, daughter of the previous emperor. Their marriage was not born of love but of politics. Octavia was quiet, dignified, reserved, a stark contrast to Nero's restless passions. Their union was a cage of cold formality, and Nero's heart wandered elsewhere. That wandering led him to Poppaea Sabina, Nero's lover and later his second wife. Poppaea was not only stunning in appearance, but keenly intelligent and dangerously ambitious. Where Octavia remained silent, Poppaea spoke boldly. Where Octavia hid in the shadows, Poppaea demanded the center of attention. And Nero, intoxicated by her presence, cast aside his first marriage and risked scandal for the sake of obsession. At first it seemed like passion, even devotion. But soon, love twisted into possession. Nero surrounded Poppaea with guards, not to protect her, but to watch her. He commissioned endless portraits and statues, so that her image would never leave his sight. He showered her with luxuries that drained the imperial treasury. To Nero, Poppaea was no longer a woman. She was an object of worship, something to own completely. Yet Poppaea was not submissive. She was clever enough to use Nero's obsession to her advantage, building her family's power, but also bold enough to confront the emperor himself. She challenged him, mocked his theatrical ambitions, and refused to bend entirely. That independence was dangerous, for it struck at the fragile heart of a man who could command armies, but could not bear contradiction. And so the seeds of tragedy were sown, seeds that would bloom in violence, madness, and the death of everything Nero claimed to love. The story now reaches its blood-stained turning point. It is the year 65 AD. Inside the private chambers of the imperial palace, a simple quarrel begins. Some say about the emperor's late return from the races, others about his obsession with performance and theater. Words turn sharp, voices rise, and at the center of it all stands Poppaea Sabina, Nero's beloved wife. Carrying his unborn child, she dares to challenge him. She reminds him that his duties as emperor and father should outweigh his endless hunger for applause. Her courage is bold, but it comes at a terrible cost. Nero's face darkens. The golden lamps flicker as though the air itself recoils. Rage boils within him, unrestrained, untamed. And then it happens. One violent strike, perhaps a kick to her abdomen, perhaps a flurry of blows. Ancient sources disagree on the details, but all agree on the outcome. Poppaea collapses. Her life, and the life of the child she carried, slips away on the cold marble floor. The palace echoes with silence broken only by Nero's sudden cries. Please. Commands, denials. The man who ruled over legions, who held the power of life and death in his word, had destroyed the one person he claimed to love most. Desperation takes hold. Physicians are summoned, threatened, bribed with treasures, ordered to perform miracles. But no miracle comes. Poppaea dies, and with her dies the heir who might have secured Nero's legacy. In that moment, something within the emperor fractures completely. Grief twists into madness. He refuses to let her body be cremated according to Roman custom. Instead, he has her embalmed, entombed in splendor surpassing that of past empresses. He declares her divine. A cult in her honor begins. The court, trembling with fear, must now act as though Poppaea still lives. Her seat remains empty at banquets. Her name is spoken in the present tense, and woe to the courtier who dares suggest otherwise. It is in this haunted atmosphere that Sporus, the young freedman who bore an uncanny resemblance to the dead, empress, enters Nero's sight. He was no ordinary servant. Educated within the palace, refined in manners, Sporus had lived close to the beating heart of Roman power. Yet his resemblance to Poppaea was his curse. The emperor's broken mind seizes upon him as if fate itself had delivered a replacement. To Nero, this was not blasphemy but restoration. The boy was no longer Sporus. In Nero's delusion, he was Poppaea reborn. Now begins one of the most disturbing chapters of imperial history. Sporus, the young freedman, who so resembled the dead empress Poppaea, was no longer seen as himself. Nero's broken mind demanded transformation. He summoned physicians, ordered them to alter the boy's body, to strip away his manhood, and force him into a shape that matched his delusion. The surgery was cruel, primitive, and agonizing. Yet to Nero, it was merely the price of obsession. Sporus survived, but survival was a different kind of death. From that moment forward, the boy was buried beneath layers of silk and powder. Imperial seamstresses crafted gowns to disguise his form. Jewelers fastened glittering ornaments, many once worn by Poppaea herself. Cosmetic artists painted his face, softening angles, darkening eyes, reddening lips. Tutors drilled him daily, how to walk with grace, how to sit with poise, how to speak in higher tones, how to gesture with delicacy. Mirrors surrounded him, but each reflection showed not Sporus, only the phantom of a woman he had never been. And then came the announcement. Nero would marry Sporus in a full imperial wedding. The court was shocked but dared not protest. Preparations rivaled any union in Roman history. The palace glittered with flowers imported from distant provinces. Thousands of lamps turned night into day. Musicians rehearsed wedding hymns while servants carried trays of delicacies. At the appointed hour, Sporus, adorned in bridal robes, was led into the great hall. Nero clasped his hand. Vows were exchanged, sacred bread broken, and documents signed. To the outside world, it was a marriage. To Sporus, it was a prison sealed with ritual. From that day on, he lived as the empress of Rome. He was given his own household, attendants, wealth from the treasury, and a litter for travel. To the eyes of strangers, it looked like privilege. But behind the gilded walls, every gesture was performance, every word a test. He had to answer as though he remembered events that had never happened, smile at memories that were not his, and embody a woman he had never known. The price of failure was unthinkable. When Nero traveled to Greece to compete in artistic festivals, Sporus was paraded beside him as if he truly were Poppaea reborn. Foreign dignitaries struggled to mask their confusion, yet all bowed, all applauded, because the emperor's fiction had become law. For Sporus, every step, every gaze, every breath was heavy with dread. Each day was survival. Each night, despair. The wheel of time turns, and by 68 AD, the empire begins to crumble. Rebellion spread through the provinces. Coffers run dry. The Praetorian Guard, once sworn to defend the emperor, now whispers of betrayal. Senators no longer flatter but condemn, and the people of Rome, once dazzled by games and spectacles, now murmur for change. For Nero, emperor of the Roman world, the end has come. He flees the city with a handful of loyalists. And beside him, as always, is Sporus, the living echo of Poppaea, bound to him by chains of fear and delusion. Nero dreams of escape, of regaining power, of staging one final performance. But reality closes in. The Senate declares him an enemy of the state. His allies abandon him. Surrounded by silence and betrayal, Nero chooses death over capture. In a villa on the outskirts of Rome, the emperor drives a dagger into himself. The man who ruled as a god dies in fear, whispering of lost greatness. Rome breathes again, but Sporus does not awaken to freedom. With Nero gone, others grasp the throne. First Otho, a short-lived emperor. Then Vitellius, who seizes power in the chaos. Each in turn takes possession of Sporus as though he were imperial property, not a human being. They dress him still as Poppaea, call him by her name, force him to appear in public as the empress who had long been dead. For Sporus, Nero's death did not end the nightmare. It only changed the hands that held the leash. Then comes the cruelest command of all. Vitellius plans a public spectacle in the great Colosseum. He will use Sporus in a performance mocking myth, mocking humanity itself, humiliation before thousands, degradation turned into entertainment. For Sporus, this is the final boundary. He has endured the loss of identity, the pain of transformation, the charade of marriage, the terror of performance. But he will not endure this. One night, before he can be led into the arena, Sporus makes his choice. Some say poison, others say the blade. Whatever the means, the result is the same. He claims the only freedom left to him, death. He is barely 20 years old. In that act, tragic yet defiant, Sporus reclaims the one thing denied to him in life, the power to decide his own fate. And so the story ends. Sporus's final choice was not weakness, but defiance, the only freedom left to him. His legacy whispers across 2,000 years, a reminder that power without mercy destroys, but dignity resists even in the darkest cage. This has been Legend and Lost Stories. If this tale held you captive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden truths from history.